Okay, so now we'll take a look at the example, and of course you have the completed example there for you to take a look at. But I'm going to pull up my Minitab and we'll talk about what the example is about, and we'll work through some of the steps on Minitab. And then I will try to switch screens and show you the, oops, wrong thing here. And I will try to show you like the write-up. So I'm going to pull up my Minitab. So go ahead and download your data if you haven't done so already, and you'll have it here in Minitab. So this problem is about coffee machines, and there's 5 different coffee machines. They're labeled A, B, C, D, and E, and we're looking at the amount of coffee that is dispensed in these coffee machines, okay? So if you remember from day 15, we want to get some descriptive statistics, and we want to get the mean for the sample, because that's what we're actually studying. So if we get that, I'm going to go to Stat, Basic, oh, I lost it, Display Descriptive Statistics. Then I can do that ranking of the means that I need for my follow-up statement if I reject my null. So my variable is the amount of coffee being dispensed. I'm going to separate this out by machine. I don't need to ask for anything special because right now I just really want the mean. I'm going to click OK. So you can see I get my descriptive statistics. Right here's my sample mean, and then I can rank my means according to this. Okay. So next I want to build my general linear model. So I know it's been a while, but this is from day 15, stat, ANOVA. Remember, I'm not doing a one-way ANOVA. I'm going to build my general linear model, so then when we move forward with the next few classes, I can still do this. I'm going to fit my model. Now I want you to notice under fit the model, everything is grayed out. That means I can't use any of those features until I fit my model, meaning until I tell Minitab what my response or numerical variable is and what the factor is. So I need to build this model. So here my response is my numerical variable, so that's the amount of coffee being dispensed. My factor is the machine, okay? So just as a note, I have K levels, which is 5 levels, because I have 5 machines that we're studying, I believe. I'm saying that, I didn't double check it. So here I could just go okay. I don't have to ask for anything special at this point. And I'll get my output. So remember here, what I'm really interested in is the analysis of variance. So it's that third box down. And what I'm going to study is my F-test statistic of 53.27 and the p-value of very small, right? And you know that's not really 0, it's just very small. So when I do my write-up, I'm going to include these, and I'll include this Minitab output. Now remember, you can include all of the output or just the ANOVA output. Either one is fine. It doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to switch to a different screen here. The notes here, and we can look at this write-up. Okay. So you'll see there's the data, which we already had in Minitab. And right here, ask for some box plots and stuff. So I'm not going to go through that. I really want to go through all the new stuff with us. So here's my ANOVA, my shortened test process, or shorter test process. So you can see how I filled everything out with my response variable, my factors being the machine. My goal is to see if the machine has an effect on the coffee dispensed, you know, so the amount of coffee. My null is that they're all equal, so all the means are equal, and my HA is at least one is different. We don't need to include alpha in the F curve with degrees of freedom, but you can if you want, but you don't need to. My sample step here, I have my Minitab output, which we just got, and then I have my requirements. So I want to talk about the requirements. It looks like a lot. It looks like it kind of gets lost in the test process, but remember, it's the same as always, right? I use my Minitab output, and then right below it, I'm going to include the requirements. I have requirements for normality, which we did last class, right? This is my NPP on all of them individually. Like they're all put together, but they're on separate lines, right? Or the new part, which I mentioned at last class, is that we can build an NPP on these standardized residuals. So I'm going to go back to the mini tab. It's kind of a pain. I have to keep switching screens like this, but and I find where it is. Here it is. So when I pull back up my mini tab, I'm going to go back in where I was, my stat, ANOVA, my general linear model. I'm going to go back in to fit my model because I'm going to ask for some specific output here. This is where I'm going to click on storage. And here in my storage, I can ask for different things to come out and they'll be stored in a column. Right here, the third one down says standardized residuals. I'm going to click that box and click OK and OK again. So it's everything in my output's going to be exactly the same as it was before, but now you can see in column 3, I have standardized residuals. This is the new NPP. I can build an NPP on those residuals and get a single NPP and just do a single test on that. Or you could do it with the multiple, whichever one. I'm going to show you how to do it with this because this is new for us. So for my NPP, I will look at graph, probability plot, single, and now I'm going to pull in my standardized residuals, column 3, and just click OK. I don't have to do anything fancy here. So we'll wait for this. It's going to take a minute, I guess. So we'll do the regular normality test here. There we go. It took a minute. Okay, my p-value is 0.5, so that is larger than 0.05. So I cannot reject my null, which is good because that means I've met normality. Okay, so it's this, everything's the same except for I'm just making one NPP for this new column 3. Okay, so feel free to rewind the video and go back and take a look at that if you want. So that's my normality. Let's take a look at the next requirement, which is my equal variances. We did this in day 15, but we'll do it one more time. So stat, back into ANOVA, back into general linear model, and now below, let's see, sorry, it's not under general linear model, it's about 4 from the bottom here. It's test for equal variances. Okay. My response variable, oops, is my mount. My factors machine, I'm going to ignore that new column 3 because that was just for my NPP. And click OK here. And we can see what we're looking at is this test output. I don't care about the graphs or anything. Doesn't mean anything to me right now. Looking at this test output, I'm looking at the Levene's p-value. The p-value is greater than 0.05. It's 0.239, which is a good thing. Because then I can say that we do have constant variance. So that's a good thing. So I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to go back to the write-up and the example, and we can take a look here. Okay, so we can see all the write-ups here. So go ahead and take a look through those 2 requirement write-ups. Okay, and I have everything in there to support that. Next, I'm going to go into my results. I'm going to report my F-test statistic, my degrees of freedom. Remember, it's the numerator divided by the denominator, and my p-value is very small. My conclusion, my sample does have evidence to say that the machine has an effect on the amount of coffee dispensed. So since I have rejected my null, I'm saying something is different, that they're not all the same. I'm going to include a follow-up. So the follow-up's only when I reject the null. Only when I'm saying something is different, I want to know what is different. That's where this Tukey's comes in, okay? So this is that Tukey's comparison. This is the new part. So again, I'm going to go back to Minitab. Sorry, I keep going back and forth, but I want you guys to see all this. So I'm going to go back here to Minitab. I'm going to go into Stat, ANOVA, back into the general linear model. Now I'm going to look right below the fit, and it has comparisons. I'm going to click right on that. This is going to be my Tukey's comparison. I'm just going to double check, but everything should be right up here. The response should be the amount. I am doing a pairwise comparison, so I'm going to leave that as is. The methods is Tukey's, so I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to check the machine. That is my factor. Okay. So now I need to ask for something specific under results here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to deselect the grouping information. I don't really need that, but I do want the test and confidence intervals. This is the test for the pairwise Tukey's that I was talking about in the intervals. So you get it all in one output table. And then, like I said before, you should be able to do both, but you only need to look at one to see. So I'm click OK. We'll get this output. So if we look at this output here, this is the same output in the notes. So you could take a look, and it's in the completed example. But what I'm looking for is a p-value greater than 0.05, okay? Or I'm looking for a CI that goes negative to positive. That means they're the same. So what I'm looking for are the things that are the same, because normally there's, I shouldn't say normally, but I guess it just depends how many we have. Like here, you can see how many pairs there are. There's a lot because we have 5 levels. So when I'm looking at this, I can see, well, I have 2, it looks like. Here's my 0.35, and that is D and B are the same, and C and A are the same. Okay. So now that I have that, I'm going to go back to the write-up because I want to take a look at the write-up for this. And when I look at the write-up, I'm going to look at my graphical display. So right here, so I did the ranking of the means according to the smallest, the sample means going from the smallest to the largest. So it was A, C, E, D, B, right? So I underlined A and C because we could see in the output, that's what we just talked about, the p-value is greater than 0.05, the interval includes 0. It doesn't have to have both, it's just, it will have both. You just have to use one method, either looking at the CI if it has 0 or looking at the p-value to see if it's greater than 0.05. And I underline those two. Then we can see down here D and B are the same. It has 0 in the CI. I underlined those two. So then we're going to make some sort of conclusion, and I'm not picky about this, but like you can say that machine A and C has the lowest mean amount dispensed, and they're statistically the same, right? And then machines D and B have the highest amount average dispensed. So, and they're statistically the same. And then you can mention how they're statistically different from machine E or something like that. And you can talk about that. So you can see the conclusion I wrote there. So it's just talking about maybe what's different or what's the same. It just depends. Sometimes if there's one thing that's different, then that's a nice thing to talk about. If there's just one thing, 2 of them that are the same, then that's nice to talk about just to make it easy. So I hope this helps, and I will see you soon in the live chat. All right.